everyone. Been a little bit since I've been on, and I've wanted to do these little things for, I don't know, 2 or 3 weeks now, and just did other things. You know how that goes. And I wanted to show you, here's a little sample, and I have you zoomed in a little bit more because these are small, and I'm hoping that you might be able to see them a little bit better. But we're gonna make little, like, antique looking crackled charms, moth charms. Hope you can see those, and you can see all the little crackles in the wings and all that, and I will show you how to make those. And they are just so cute. There's just, on these, there's some stamps on the back. These are just made with a scrapbook paper, like a kind of in between a cardstock and a paper weight, and some of my little printables. So let's make some of those. So I am using some of my printable moths, which you'll find on my website at databear.com. If you don't want to use these, I'm sure you can use whatever moths you have, or if you have some stamps like the Tim Holtz CMS 436 Moth Study, you could use those. These are a little bit bigger than what mine are printed at, but these would work just fine. And I don't know why I have 2 of those, but I do. Okay. And then I got these on Amazon. I cannot remember what it was, what the name of it was. It's been a while since I got these, but there's one in here. I think it says something about, there's one that's department something collection, I think. That's where I got it from. Anyway, I guess it doesn't really matter. Maybe it wasn't this one. But anyway, I used just some round stamps. Any of those would work for the back of the little things. Okay, and then these are just little key tags that I have tea dyed, and they just turned out so pretty. I'm not real fond of the silver, but I'm sure we could put alcohol ink or something over that, but I was afraid that I would get it all over the paper. And I just kind of wanted the paper to be more plain, I guess. Some of them turned out darker than others, you know, like that side's lighter and that side's darker. I have no idea why. I guess more tea settled on there and absorbed into it further. But anyway, I'm going to use those. I also had some of these, and these are really old, and I don't know where I got these. I have no clue, but I'm sure you could find something similar to those. Just other tea tags are just square. Or not tea tags, key tags. Okay, and then otherwise, I just use a circle punch to cut out some little paper circles. Whatever pattern you want, does not matter. Or also, what did I do with them? Oh, I use some of my little printable labels. They're also on my website. To make this kind here. It's just one of those little labels, and then that one is one of the, I guess, the Tim Holtz stamps. Admit 1 ticket, and I just put that on the back. So those are, you know, use anything that you want to use for the back of these. I mean, for the base of these, and I'm sure they'll turn out wonderful. Okay, so the main part, if I can find what I was doing. Okay, put that over there. So the main part is the crackling. And I used the Mod Podge Dimensional Magic. I also used the Jewelry Glaze. And then the glossy accents. So surely you've got one of those, or all. The Dimensional Magic, I think, worked the best and the quickest. The Jewelry Glaze, or was it? Let me look here. I know I wrote them on there somewhere. Yeah, the Mod Podge cures the quickest, so that you can crackle it. The Jewelry Glaze it works just pretty much the same, except it takes about 3 or 4 days before it's cured enough that it's no longer pliable, and it'll crackle. So that's one thing to keep in mind about this. And this one here is kind of in between. Depending on how thick you put these on, you know, you just have to test it. But they'll eventually, you know, after a day or 2 or 3 or whatever, they will be cured enough that they're brittle or hard. Okay, so here's some that I did, and so that you can see what they look like, and I'll bring that up there so you can listen to it crackle. You hear it? Okay, so that's what we're doing. And all I did was I just took, let me find some scissors. I just took a few moths, and all I did was I just put these glossy mediums, I guess you want to call it, just on, oh, there's a tiny one, just kind of building it up around the wings. Just try to stay somewhere close to the lines. Does not have to be perfect. So you just want to make it so it's going to be nice and kind of thick. Just go around in there and try to keep the bubbles out. Just go around the outline of him. And that's really all there is to it. We'll do another one. Let's do this one. Like I said, it doesn't have to be absolutely perfect inside those lines, but the better you can keep it in, the less you'll have to worry about cutting it off or trying to cut it off. And if you do get a little bubble in there, like that right there, you just pop it with a toothpick or your X-Acto knife. Okay, so when you're doing these, when they're wet, they're going to make your paper curl. So, and you want them to dry straight, so you either want to do a few and then put something on the edges or tape it down to something, which would be your best option. You know, tape it along the edges so it stays flat. That way when it dries, they don't curl up like that. And that's really all there is to that. I mean, you could just put them on, you know, just put it on a stamp block and tape the edges down, or on a piece of cardboard. Just tape it down the sides. That way it doesn't, you know, when the moisture soaks into the paper, it won't curl it up. So I'll put this off to the side, because you know how to do that now. It's just a domed area of the Mod Podge or Jewelry Glaze or Glossy Accents, whichever one you want. I'll put that off to the side and close that. Okay, so we got that part covered. And then I have several of these that are already done. This one was kind of weird. It worked just fine, but I think I didn't have my Jewelry Glaze shook up a little, you know, enough, and it made this odd kind of wrinkling, which was kind of cool, but I won't use that one today. So anyway, we'll take one of these. I already crackled most of these, but you can crackle them as much or as little as you want. Okay, So what we're going to do is we're going to take some, oh yeah, I forgot, you need some distress ink or vintage photo, or not vintage photo, well yeah, but distress ink or distress oxide, water-based ink. You could use one of your sprays, like, you know, one of your distress oxide sprays or whatever. And I'm just going to use this, and I'm going to get me a little stamp block here. I'll just use that little guy, and I'm just going to put some of that on there. And I'm going to take an old kind of crappy paintbrush and a little bit of water on my brush, just not a whole lot, just a little bit. And I'm just going to dab that in there just to kind of dilute it just a little bit. And then we're going to go over the moths. And what this does, wherever there's crackles, it's going to go down inside those cracks, and it's going to stain the paper underneath. It's also going to stain the paper on the outside, which is fine, but you can see, you crackle as much as you want, but you can see here, let me wipe that off. Wipe here. I forgot to get out. Oh goodness, thing's fighting with me today. And then we're just going to wipe off the dimensional glaze or whatever top coat. So you can kind of see, now you can see all those little crackles in there. So the more crackles you put, the more is going to show up, of course. More water. And I just kind of bend the paper so I can make sure I get it down in there. You don't have to use this color. You can use whatever color you want. You could use green, purple, whatever. But it'll show up in there, in the cracks, and make it look like an antique brooch or enamel piece, or whatever they call that. I think that's what they'd call it. And you can see exactly how that is, or what it's going to look like when it's dried. If there's not enough crackles for your taste when you get that painted on there, you can always crackle it some more. You can open that up a little bit more to allow more liquid to get down in there, however you want to do it. So we'll just wipe off the tops, and there you go. And when we cut those out, you'll see that is all, it'll look a little bit different since they'll be by themselves. Okay, so, and you could also cut these out before you put the ink on them, but I just did it this way. And then you can just use your scissors or your X-Acto knife, craft knife, whatever, and cut these out. And for this one, of course, just use my scissors, and you can see I'm going to cut off a little bit of that white area. Cut around this little head. Now keep in mind that if you're doing it this way, your paper is going to be wet, so you can tear these if you are very rough with them. So you don't want to tear them. But yeah, just trim those out, and then I'll cut one out with the knife. It's just, I think it works better on the ones that you do the dry ones. A little bit easier if you're going to use your craft knife, because otherwise your paper is just going to tear around the edges, and you don't want that. So go ahead, and then we'll crackle it, or yeah, we'll add the liquid, the dye. Oh my God, I can't speak. The ink after we cut it out. And I'm just doing a rough job here. Nothing really fantastic. Let's see. Okay, I'm gonna go around his little head. And like I said, it's not perfect, but it is there. Okay, so you can see we got him cut out. We'll crackle him. Hope you could hear that. And then I'll grab some ink and just, this one you're not gonna be able to see it very well on because he's dark, of course, but I don't know why I chose the dark one. Just the way it is. Okay, so we got that, but you can see you just cut out your moth, your butterfly, whatever you're gonna do, and there you go. They are ready to let dry. You don't really have to let them dry, but if you're gonna cut, like I said, if you're gonna cut the ones out that you do on the paper with your ink, let that dry first. That way your paper doesn't tear around the edges. Your moth, whatever. Alright, so we've got a couple there, and I think I'm going to cut out, yeah, I need to cut out one more. Let's cut out, let's do that purplish one. So, there we go, we've got 3. Now, get that off there. Okay, so first, I guess I'll just use one of these. I was thinking I want to use that for something. I need to get my crocodile out. And put a small, oh, I could put a regular sized one up there. Let's just put a hole up here for our eyelet. Oops. So yeah, you don't have to use an eyelet, of course. You do not have to. I think it looks nice, and I'm going to use one. Okay. So there's the front side, and there's the back, and it turned out just wonderful. You can put your bulb pin through there, which I'll do in a little bit. Which one are we going to use on here? I think that needs, it's kind of busy, so let's use the dark one. It'll show up a little bit better. And then just glue them on. You could put a little plant or flower behind it. I die cut these a long time ago. If I can figure out how to open them. Let's grab a little white plant here. That would look cute behind there. Just to give it a little something extra. I don't know. It looks okay. I'm not sure about it. Take some vintage photo on an ink pad and give it a little bit of color so it's not so white. And of course that one's going to be, oh my goodness. Let's find my needle there. It's cold out here, so nothing wants to work, even me. Alright. And just dot that on there. Doesn't have to be perfect. You should be using tweezers. I think I'll put it About like that. I just kind of made it disappear. Oh well. Maybe we'll do this one on there. Yeah, let's use that one. So I'm just, oh, and if you want, because if your wings are, you know, wider than your piece, you're not going to want to see the tips of the wings being bright white on the back of your charm. So I'm just going to give that a little bit of color so it's not so blinding. Alright, so we'll just glue down the center mainly because I don't know how far that's going to take up. And didn't drop it. Wish it wasn't so cold out here. Alright, I think I like it off. Do it that way or that way. Let's do it that way. And there we go. Okay, and then we'll just take a bulb pin, run that through the top, and there you go. You're ready to hang that on whatever you want to hang it on. Something, some kind of nature journal, any kind of journal. I mean, none of this stuff goes together, so it doesn't matter. You could put that in a Christmas journal. It just does not matter. So there you go. There's a pretty little charm. Okay, there's one. And then I'll use one of these. I really like this little guy. Is cute. Now that says specimen date type approved and department A093 collection ID KA207, and I just stamped a different thing on each side. So it just whichever side I decided to put this on, and the edges of this are kind of light, so you can ink the side, you know, the edges if you want to. You could take a marker and go around it like this. Always do that from the back so you don't mark up the front. Like if you mess up, you'll more likely go this way, so always do it from the back. And I love these markers because they're watercolor markers from Tombow, and I love that really beautiful, deep, nice point, because you can get into all those little areas. But anyway, there we go. You can use a marker if you want, and I don't think I need to put anything else on there. I want specimen to show, so let's darken the back of that a little, because I know some of that's gonna show up over the edges. Okay. Oops, much better. Goodness. And we'll just put a little bit of glue. Find some tweezers so I can see exactly where I want him to be. So I think I want to make sure specimen shows at least a little bit. So I think I'm going to put that one just right there. And there we go. There's that. We can put a eyelet through there. That would look nice too. We can go ahead and set that. There we go. That's all set perfect. So then we'll put our little bulb pin on there. You could use a paper clip. If you don't have bulb pins, you could use a paper clip or a safety pin. Like a rusty safety pin would look great. But there's another one all done. And then we have this dark one, and I'm not sure what to put him on. Oh, and when you get those key tags, they're like this. I just take these split rings off, and because I might use them for something at some point. You don't have to take them off. They're already, you know, if you leave them like that, they're already done. It's just a little easier to work with if you take them off. So he would look okay on there. Let's see. Could do some white stamping on there maybe. Let's try that. I have my Hero Arts, and let's see, let's find one of these that we like. That one fits just perfect, but it's just a little too perfectly big, so let's go with that one. I think that one there, I don't know if you can see it, I think that one there would work good. So I'll grab that. Use my little stamp block. I don't need the ink anymore, or that ink anyway. So put him on there. I have my Hero Arts Unicorn White pigment ink, and this would show up a lot better if I were to emboss it with white, but I don't feel like embossing right now. Get into, let's see if we can get that somewhat even. I showed up a little bit. It doesn't look horrible. I think it'd look better if it were not as cold out here. And we'll just do the other side just to do it. That one turned out a little bit better. Alright, so we have that. You could use your Delicata Gold or whatever you want to. So I think that looks pretty good. So I'm going to cover up the bad side. The bad side, but you know what I mean. And we'll put him there. I think I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to grab a little tiny eyelet. I believe these are 3mm eyelets. They're very, very tiny. Because that's the one that's going to fit in there, and I don't want to make that hole much bigger because that little square is not really big. So I'm going to reset my crocodile here for that size. Put that through. Yeah, see, that's the perfect size there. There we go. That looks great. Love that. Looks good on that side. If you don't like the back, which I'll probably, this one's okay, it's not too jaggy, but you can take and you can lay that down and take a hammer and just tap that down if it's sharp. That's what I do anyway. And let's grab a piece of this. Go ahead and just tone it down a little bit. Come on. Grab my other tweezers. Reverse tweezers. I love those things. Alright. This might be too big. Maybe just a little bit big. Where's the other one? Let's grab one of these little flowers. So I've got these. I can just cut a couple of these apart. Well, I probably just need one. Yeah, because that's all you're going to see. So I'm going to cut that so that the other flower can still be used. And darken that up a little. Need more coffee this morning, I guess. And just put a little glue. And let's put that kind of around the eyelet there. Okay. Oh, go ahead and darken these wing tips because I'm not sure how much of that's going to show on the back. looks pretty good. And there we go. We got a dark moth. That looks pretty. That'd be a good one for Christmas. Kind of a red and green. That would look good. Could put some bling on the back if you wanted to. Alright, so let's use a bronze colored little pin on there. And there we go. There's another one. So there's 3. And I think they look really cute. They turned out good. Just experiment with, you know, your whatever things you want to make little tags out of, little charms out of. And I just love how they turned out with the crackling. Again, there's the first ones I did. Maybe. But I just love them. I think they look really cute. So make some of those, have lots of fun, make a whole bunch. They're really pretty and can be used on anything. And I will see y'all later. Thanks.